DVD, a block company, Celina de la Garza from Bankaya, Ryan Zagone from Wise, and Jeanne Yurman from Vansary. Give them a big hand.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Y'all coffeeed up? All right. Well, we're so happy to have you join us for one of the early panels this morning here. As you may know, this panel is called A New Language in Cross-Border Payments. I'm Jeanne Yurman, and I'm a senior consultant with Vansary. That is a New York-based PR firm that specializes in working with tech and fintech clients. So before we get started, it's worth noting that the cross-border payments landscape has a value of an estimated $250 trillion by 2027. And that's in contrast to $150 trillion in 2017. It's absolutely massive, and it affects individuals and businesses alike. The question is, with all of our increasing interconnectedness, why aren't cross-border payments as global as we are? Well, to sort this out, we are joined by three really terrific panelists here. To my right, we have Tony Zagone. He's head of bank partnerships at Wise. We have Celina de la Garza, the VP of strategy and product at Bankaya. And on the end there, we have Tony Tom, and he is lead of product at TBD, a block company. So thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
So as we get started, it might be worth taking a moment here to discuss or characterize the current landscape of cross-border payments. So how about if I just start here on the right with you, Tony, Ryan. How would you characterize the current landscape?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Ryan from Wise. So Wise is an international payments company. We service 13 million customers. We're sending money to around 160 currencies today. The market today is quickly evolving in this cross-border space. And I see it from the place where domestic payments, we've had an expectation now for instant. With Zelle, RTP, FedNow, the expectation to send a payment is that it's there now. That is quickly spilling over into the cross-border space, where we're seeing customers demand instant in a cross-border payment. If you send a cross-border payment anytime in your past, you know they're not instant. There's a lot of friction, there's cost, there's unexpected delays. So the core of Wise has been building a product that enables that instant experience. So today, about 60% of our transfers settle instantly. We're focused on delivering that user experience. That's meeting that customer expectation has really led us to be well positioned to grow over the past 5 years. We've seen a lot of volume come to Wise post-COVID. There's this shift in the market where instant became the expectation.
Celina, I'm going to come back to you because I want you to describe, like in a very concrete way, what it looks like. So we'll come back to you in a hot sec. So what would you say, Tony?
Yeah, hi everybody. Tony Tom with TBD. TBD is a block company. Block used to be called Square, and I used to work at Cash App. So as long as you followed all of that, it's going to be fine. At Cash App, I was the global operations lead. So my experience in cross-border payments mostly had to do with launching programs across Europe, Australia, and Canada. And so I actually joined TBD because what I saw there was a lot of frustration with that bureaucratic process to launch country by country, etc. So at TBD, we're working on a decentralized protocol that connects financial institutions all around the world and allows them to share value, sometimes in digital, crypto, blockchain-based value, but ultimately connecting that to fiat or sovereign infrastructure that allows for instant payments. We'll geek out on that a little bit, but really excited to be with you this morning.
Okay, and if you were to characterize the current landscape, just in brief
like
thought,
a single word. My favorite word to describe global payments right now is it's a patchwork, right? So there's a lot of interesting entrepreneurship that happens on a country by country basis. Sometimes that's connected via the banking system. Sometimes it's not very well connected, but ultimately we all know, if we're working in this space, that the bank payments in particular are slow, they're expensive, and especially if you're working at different thresholds, right? So if you're moving small amounts of money, it's a completely different experience if you're trying to move $1 million, $5 million, $10 million. And so what we're trying to do is unlock all of that entrepreneurship and local experience and connect it together so that we can drive efficiencies all through that stack. So.
Okay, and Celina, when we were talking, ahead of this panel, I was really struck with the example that you gave me of, at least on an individual level, what it looks like right now without technology. So maybe you could share that.
Yes, so to give everybody context, Bankaya is a financial services platform that serves the base of the socioeconomic pyramid in Mexico. It's a segment that is underbanked, vastly underserved by traditional financial services industry. And yes, today from a consumer perspective, if you want to send over money from the US to Mexico, for example, you're facing a process that is just full of friction. So a sender in the US today, they usually have cash with them. They'll walk over to a retail store down the corner, a local mom and pop shop, do an onboarding process, and provide specific instructions on how they want to send the money. So at this point, they already need to coordinate with a receiver on when the money will be sent and where it's going to be picked up. And on top of that, they'll actually pay a pretty hefty fee. So fees on an average $250 transaction are around 6%, which is very, very high. And on the other hand, a receiver in Mexico will also have to physically go pick up cash after an onboarding process and then just leave with cash on their pocket and walk down the streets. So it's a process that is ineffective. It's costly in terms of money, but also time in doing all those pickups and receiving the money. And that's exactly what we want to change, right? We want a new process that is efficient, that is cheap, that is transparent, and that is secure for our customers.
Great, well, thank you. Want to shift into what are some of the key challenges, and certainly the panelists and people in the audience who work in this space know that the challenges, like the list is endless. In general, and Celina just touched on it, you've got speed, transparency, and cost is like three major challenges in general. But I'd like to hear from the panelists, what do you see as some of the key challenges to improving and evolving cross-border payments? How about we start at the other end?
Sure. Challenges, man. There's a lot of challenges, and I think we see them if we live in this day in and day out. I think that, like, when we talk about the fragmentation, that's one thing. There's also the fact that access to the banking system generally is very controlled. That's been for an historic reason. But I think what's happening in the last couple of years is there's this explosion of stablecoin use cases. I mean, I think the Stripe acquisition of Bridge last week points to this quickly changing landscape of instant settlement availability as a medium layer between a fiat transaction on one side and a fiat transaction on another side. And so I think the challenge is, how can we take this new system, right? This super fast instant settlement system that has digital assets, and how can we confidently connect it to the old system that allows for payouts? And Ryan touched on this earlier. The instant payout system, country by country, is really good. Like, I don't think that any of us can really knock that. But I think that when we do cross-border payments, there's so much room for improvement here. I think that working within the traditional system, building liquidity pools the way that Wise is doing it, or what we're proposing, which is a decentralized protocol that actually connects the liquidity of each of the financial institutions around the world and allows for them to work directly. So we have partnerships with Bankaya in Mexico that we're facilitating, and then we also have partnerships in Africa via a relationship that we announced last year here with Yellow Card, which is a large crypto exchange in Africa. But when you have a protocol that connects those systems in a free way, so we all know that, like, banks charge money for their network, Visa charges money for their network, like network, fees. if there's an open network that allows for that connection, we think that that cost savings can be directly injected into individual remittances and then all the way up to large B2B payments as well. So that's the opportunity that I see. It's how do you connect that new system to the old systems, because there are several of them and they're all unique. But if you unlock that local entrepreneurship and you connect it to that future system, I think that's when all of us together in the room can really start to see explosive change and growth.
Celina, what about you? What do you think are key challenges?
Yes, Jeanne, I think I'd love to highlight that there's a trust aspect still. So we can't expect our customers to adopt digital payments if they don't trust us. So a lot of what we try to do at Bankaya is actually meet the customers many times physically and walk them through an onboarding process, explain to them how easy it is to use products and how easy it is to receive remittances from the US. And when we reduce that complexity, we gain trust, because complexity sometimes brings about fear in consumers. And this is why we love working with TBD, because they help us get rid of all that complexity. Our consumers don't need to know that there's an open source protocol involved behind it. They don't need to know that stable coins are involved. All they really experience is getting a deposit directly into their bank account that is instant and that is secure.
Okay, Ryan?
From Wise's view, the symptoms that we see in cross-border payments are the same across all these markets. Lack of speed, expensive, there's delays, but the challenges that cause those symptoms vary broadly, country to country. So what that translates to is that I think we'll see a number of different solutions come to market to solve international payments. The path Wise took has been to connect instant payment rails that exist in the local countries and weave those together into a platform. That's been the guts of Wise. We've been weaving together, threading these instant payment rails together. That's allowed us to make about 60% of our volume settles instantly today. We measure that as funds in the recipient's account in under 20 seconds. So the end-to-end process has been built like weaving together existing rails. Like that has been a solution that we found to be trusted. These systems are up and running. They're the backbone of the local financial system. But we have built on top of that this kind of like weaver, if you will. We'll see like a variety of things happening in the space, stable coins, some other like approaches to the market. For our space today, this main challenge of the diversity of challenges we found most easily solved by weaving together these existing systems.
So we've talked a lot about the challenges, and you guys have already touched on, in part, some of the solutions. Kind of the flip side of the coin of there being so many problems and this being such a big space is that there is room for multiple solutions. So maybe if you want to dive even a little bit deeper into, what are the solutions currently and what do you see as solutions in the future?
Yeah, from Wise's side, like we're the weavers, we're weaving together these instant rails. I think the major thing we've worked on is speed. One of the other, I think, challenges you see in the market today, if you're a financial institution or a fintech looking to add or improve your cross-border payment space, it's a really daunting task to look at how do you build. Like it took Wise 10 years to build the platform. So like we're quickly seeing in the market today is this decision point that a company will come to, do we build or do we partner? For Wise, we saw a lot of that demand coming to us for partnerships. So like, we want your infrastructure, we want your speed and your benefits, but we don't want to build it. Can we just partner with you? So that led to us about 4 years ago launching a new business line called Wise Platform, which I sit in. Platform is this business where we're taking Wise's infrastructure and white labeling it or partnering it out to third parties. So other parties, banks, financial institutions, we have about 90 partners on the platform today. They're using Wise's rails to create and make their own international payments. So what you're seeing is this evolution in Wise, where we're evolving from being a direct-to-consumer, a direct-to-small business company, into an infrastructure business. So like the Wise app that most customers know today becomes essentially a demo app of what's possible on our infrastructure. So we're quite excited around what we're doing in this space. Our last partner that we announced in the Americas was Nubank, the largest digital bank in the world. They're based out of Brazil, 100 million active customers. So with Wise and Nubank coming together, we brought our advanced infrastructure on international payments into their digital banking platform, which is really tailored and specialized for Brazil. So the challenge we see in the market is like, how do you improve? And Wise and a number of other players in this space are coming together to improve cross-border through these partnerships.
All right, Tony or Celina, it's up for grabs. You want to add to kind of what you see as current or future solutions?
Do you want it? I got an idea, but you go.
Yes, my response is going to be pretty general, but I think the solutions are digital, and I can't believe in 2024 we're actually talking about this, but my example really frames how in many places, in many countries, we're just lagging behind. And having digital solutions is important. There's spillover effects to actually receiving your money inside a bank account. You not only feel more secure, you're not carrying around the cash that you just received from the US, but all of a sudden you have a digital credential, right? And in the future, when a lot of people are using TBDEX, that will give you access to a lot of products and services. Today, having inflows into your bank account gives companies like Bankaya, like us, data, which makes us feel much more comfortable in actually providing credit to consumers, for example. Our customers today, instead of paying out things in cash, they can pay out with a card and get cash back. So there's a lot of other smaller benefits that we usually don't see right off the bat that make it really important for us to actually digitize all these payments.
Can I add one thing? I think there's a kind of a niche phrase around decentralization, open protocols, right? What we have today are 100 centralized experiences, and we do this every single day without even recognizing it, right? We go to one app, we go to the next app, we go to the next app, and each one of those requires us to validate ourselves, to check in, and we have this very centralized, siloed experience. What I hope to see in the future is more of a marketplace, especially when it comes to cross-border payments, where people can understand what the rate at Wise is versus the rate at like whatever the other opportunity is, and that we start to share some of this data. Because if you even think about exchange rates, if you think about the value of how our currencies work, they're set in many different ways. There's the central bank rate, there's the street rate, there's all of these different rates. And what we're trying to build here at TBD is an open protocol that we can all share as financial institutions, that we can change this future together to make it more decentralized, to make more of a marketplace out of cross-border payments, as opposed to having them be siloed experiences app by app by app, where people, when they want to send money, they have to go to app 1 and app 2 and app 3, and then they have to go, okay, well, what's my exchange rate? What's the additional cost? I think what's really cool is that regulators, like I think industry-wide, globally, et cetera, we're all trying to figure out how we protect individuals, the remitters, make sure that they have a very clean and like full view of their experience, understand all of their costs, et cetera. I think that there's a willingness and an eagerness to get that done. But I think that comes to totality when you can actually see multiple rates and have more of a marketplace experience, as opposed to just like an individual siloed central app experience.
So what do we see? We know that COVID provided a huge tailwind for propelling cross-border payments forward. While we don't want another COVID, for sure, what could be some other tailwinds out there that could help move cross-border payments forward and make it more global?
I'm going to be a broken record. I really do think that so there's this metaphor that I have working in my mind. I don't know if any of you surf or if you've ever been out on the ocean, but the hardest part about being out on the ocean is trying to actually get through the first set of waves, right? It's breaking through. And I feel like the last couple of years, we've had this experience where we've all been like, we've known that like life has kind of sucked. Everyone around us is like, like it's just not great, but like we're working towards something. And I do think that there's this instant settlement layer, which we call stable coins, but it's predictability. It allows for stable currencies to move into different markets where their experience with their own currency is kind of anything but stable, honestly. And so there's all kinds of innovation that's happening there, but I think that the tailwind that we see is that and to finish the metaphor really is that I think that the moment has changed. I think that as an industry we've kind of broken through a bit, and there is a swell that's kind of starting to propel us back and give us energy around the fact that, hey, this new technology could actually provide something innovative. If we look at that $190 trillion last year in cross-border payments, if the stat's right, I read somewhere last week that 8.2 trillion cross-border in Q2 of this year alone in stablecoins. The transition is happening quickly, and so I would just say I think that is energizing. I think that is an indication of where kind of the puck is going, to use another metaphor for my Canadian hockey fans. If we're going to skate to it, I think that's what we need to be looking at.
Celina, thoughts about tailwinds?
Yes, so COVID was a huge tailwind. Remittances in Mexico, US-Mexico quarter were up 70% since, and we're not seeing it stop. And so I think we have tons of inertia there, and as more consumers adopt these methods of cross-border payments, I think there will be a lot of word of mouth. People from the US and from Mexico really just live in communities, right? And they very quickly adopt these types of solutions. Remittances are also quite stable. So on average, people will receive 2 payments a month, highly sticky. And so we're very confident that once we provide a really good experience right from the start, it'll be just the go-to convenient way to send over money across borders.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'll say something I never thought I'd say. The 2 biggest tailwinds that have me really excited right now are both from regulation. The first is around fee transparency. Wise has long been a proponent that customers should know the total cost of their transfer before they make the payment, including any fees in the FX rate. And this past year, the CFPB has come out classifying hidden fees in the FX rate as a junk fee that should not be allowed in the market. So this new regulatory approach now puts pressure to drive transparency into the total cost of remittances, really for the first time we've seen in the US. This practice is banned by regulation in several other countries, but it has still been allowed in North America. So I'm really excited first to see regulation now looking to drive transparency in the cost of payments. I think that's going to reshape the market as providers have to be transparent to the total cost. There's no more hidden fees. Customers will now be more educated and start to make more business decisions, like changing who they send money with. So I think this regulatory change is going to drive customer behavior and drive business growth to the providers that are building in a way that is low cost and efficient. Wise is really keen on that point. So we're really excited to see how the market starts to shift when price transparency really becomes commonplace. The second piece of regulation that has me really excited, and I think there is a big tailwind for the industry, is access to payment systems. Non-banks are the main drivers of innovation in the remittance sector. We are the companies that are building, that are innovative in new ways, that are trying to improve the user experience in payments. A key part that enables us to do that is to get access to the payment rails in the local country. As of today, 6 of the 7 G7 countries now allow non-banks to access their payment rails. Last week, Wise announced that we're the first non-bank that's been approved for access to the Japan rail. So in the very soon future, we'll be the first remittance provider that allows us to do instant payments into Japan. Last year, we were one of the first in Singapore. The year before that, we were the first non-bank to access Australia's instant payment rail. So Wise has been a leader in looking at how do we get access to instant rails and use those to improve remittances. The one market to date that has not enabled access for non-banks to the rail is the US. It's the one G7 that's not enabled this. However, what makes me quite excited about this is that for the first time, there's been actual conversation from policymakers in the US to look at this topic. So I'm excited to see where that develops and how that unfolds in a way that's prudent, that's safe, but it's also allowing this sector to drive innovation.
Do you think that changes? 1033 just being kind of like a sprig of hope, just that the US is moving in that direction?
I think globally the winds are in that direction. If you look at what the Financial Stability Board and the World Bank have put for the targets for innovation or targets for remittances, it's lower cost, faster pace, greater inclusion. The winds are in that direction. It's just at a country by country basis now. They're figuring how do we do that? So I'm really excited. The winds are there. Many countries are moving, and the US has now opened the door for that conversation.
Great. Well, we only have a few minutes left, and I think it's worth maybe having our panelists look into their crystal balls about cross-border payments and just telling us what they think the landscape might look like, maybe even just 5 years from now. How do you go ahead, Ryan? I know you just finished talking.
No, that's fine. 5-10 years out, I think there's the expectation customers have for instant speed, for transparency, and certainty in their payments will be ubiquitous. And Wise has been in a good place to drive that for the markets we're active in. So I think this expectation in the market is going to be met. I'm also very conscious that there's lots of challenges, and Wise isn't in every market. So I think to the kind of theme of our panel here, there's different ways to solve payments. I think there's going to be multiple ways, multiple approaches with different technologies to do that.
Great. Celina?
I would echo Ryan's comments. On the consumer side, it looks pretty similar. We're moving money across borders in a transparent, efficient, easy way to use. I'm really hoping we've come a long way in terms of including the unbanked and underbanked into the formal financial service industry in Mexico. And that only means that there'll be more demand for solutions like ours.
I mean, I would just kind of invite us all to remember that we're here to serve people. I mean, that's part of our mission statement. And I think at the end of every single transaction is either an individual or a small business owner in a lot of cases, that couple of bips, points, whatever it is, those actually have real impact, especially when we're talking about a couple $100s here or there. So the more efficient that we can be, so when I look toward the future, it has to be more efficient. I think Ryan hit this, but speed, efficiency, and the problem is so massive that all of us in the room could immediately just turn our full attention to it, and we probably still wouldn't be able to fully solve it in 5 years. It's a lifetime of work, but I would just say in 5 years, I see improved efficiency and transparency, because I think the speed is going to start to sort itself out. Things will, I think in the last 5 to 10 years, instant payment systems around the world have proliferated, they're well established. Connecting them together and truly making that global, I think will be the trick.
Okay, 2 last questions. Maybe not a question so much, but, and this is up for grabs for anyone, but just for all of us, in a very concrete way, like what does this all look like with more speed, with more efficiency? Say I want to send money to somebody in Africa, right? Whether I'm a business or an individual, what does that look like versus right now?
Like I said, and I kind of touched on this earlier, but right now, remember, we have these very centralized experiences, and I think in the future. Okay, so let's go, like today you want to send money to Africa. Again, like I was saying earlier, you open up 2 or 3 different apps, you say, okay, this is the rate for the Wise transfer, and maybe they serve 18 countries, but then you're like, well, I'm like in that 19th country, it's like I need to get to Zambia, and like only 2 apps actually serve Zambia. So to Ryan's point, there is this like incredible fragmentation, and so, you know, and the rates. The other thing is like the transparency on the rates. I think like that has to be crucial. I think Ryan's point about the regulation is super important for us all to like not only understand and grok, but also like continue to advocate for within our own businesses. So if we're all operating financial institutions around the world, that's what we call them at TBD. It's kind of a little nerdy, but we all kind of have our own personal or like company perspective on it. And I think the more that we open up and are transparent, it's a question of like a rising boat kind of floating, or a rising tide floating all boats. This pie is so big, like if we work together, if we are transparent, if we share those rates, only good things will happen. And I love that Wise is already kind of leading in that regard as well.
And if I can add, Jeanne, going back to my original example, this means that a sender in the US, in my example, will just, through one point of contact or one entry point, send money, know exactly when it's going to arrive, what the rate will be, and the receiver, on the other hand, will not have to do that trip to go pick up cash. They'll just really get something as simple as a push notification from an app saying your money is in your bank account. So that's really what we want to aim for.
Okay, and maybe 1 or 2 of you, if you could wrap this up by, you know, the title of this panel session is A New Language for Cross-Border Payments. So what is that new language? Anybody?
Well, I will say very concretely, we have proposed an open protocol. That is a language in of itself. It's an API. So if you have the experience where you're connecting, like as a financial institution, and you want to, like, for example, like integrate a instant payment rail somewhere in Africa, well, that's an integration. Your engineering team has to sit down and actually like code up and like do that work. And that's a one-time use case. It only works for that one scenario. There's a lack of scalability in that. So what we've created is an open protocol that allows for all financial institutions to actually speak a common language. And then through that common language, it will actually reduce the amount of integration work that we need to do over time. It's a bit of a pipe dream, I will grant that, and it will take a lot of adoption. We've got some partners in Africa and in Latin America, but whether it's our protocol or whether it's another protocol, honestly, something like that needs to exist. Something decentralized and open, and it needs to be catalyzed. And by catalyzed, I mean used, adopted, tested, contributed to, etc. All those kinds of things. So if you're curious, we're here. TBD, bright yellow. This is not as bright as the yellow normally is, but you'll find us, and we'd love to talk a little bit about that if you want to geek out.
I think about like. Oh, I'm sorry.
We're going over just a little bit, so.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. New language, what is it?
I mean, like Tony said, I think it's decentralized. It gives people optionality, and they can definitely choose to send money the way they want, in a way that's faster and cheaper.
And Ryan?
I mean, I was going to jokingly say you should all become trilingual, and that's the new language. And I think where Wise is evolving to embed our infrastructure into banks, the future looks like you don't have to learn Wise's language or another provider's language or their app or experience. You can access an instant experience from the provider you use today, like from the bank you have today. And as Wise evolves to this infrastructure company where we're embedding our experience into multiple parties, you'll be able to get that without having to open an account with Wise. You have it all in one place, the language or app you use today.
All right. Well, thank you so much, panelists.
Thank you
for sharing your insights, and thank you
Thank you,
for
Jeanne.
attending.
Thank you, everybody.